Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study in the Gospel of John. We're in John chapter 21. Today we start reading at verse 20. We are starting the last few verses of the Gospel of John. We're wrapping up the book. Now the conversation between Jesus and Peter about, do you love me? Feed my lambs, has concluded. And notice what happens next in verse 20. Peter turned and saw that the disciple whom Jesus loved was following them. Now this was the one who had leaned back against Jesus at the supper and had said, Lord, who is going to betray you? So while Peter and Jesus are talking, Peter looks and sees the other disciple who simply identified the one whom Jesus loved. We've said this several times throughout the Gospel of John. This is the Apostle John. He is close at hand. He hears the conversation between Jesus and Peter. Now, notice what Peter says when he sees John. Now, remember, Jesus had just told Peter, there will come a day when someone will tie your hands together, taking you where you don't want to go. Peter realized this meant he would follow Jesus in the way of martyrdom. Now he turns and sees John following them. And so Peter says, Lord, what about him? Isn't it interesting? So often when the Lord asks something of us, or especially something that's costly, and discipleship does always cost. It costs our all. Of course, we receive all of heaven. But it does cost us. Jesus said, if you want to follow me, you've got to take up your cross and follow. That's what he just told Peter. And so Peter turns and sees John and says, but Lord, what about him? So often when the Lord asks something of us, we want to compare ourselves to someone else. But what about this other disciple? Are you asking that of them? Are you asking that of them? What about him? And Jesus answered, if I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? You must follow me. Jesus always says to us, my business is with you and what I call you to do. Don't be comparing yourself to others. What about that other one? Or what are you asking of them? Just respond to my call upon you. I also have a call to John, but that's between me and John. It's never a good idea to be comparing ourselves to others in this matter of faith. Let's just hear what Jesus calls us to do, and then let's follow him. So Jesus said, listen, if I want John to remain alive until I come again, that's between him and me. You just concentrate on following me. And then John says something very interesting in verse 23. He says, because of what Jesus had just said, the rumor spread among the believers that this disciple would not die. But Jesus did not say that he would not die. He only said, if I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? This is the disciple who testifies to these things, who wrote them down. We know that his testimony is true. So John says, listen, I know a rumor circulated that Jesus said I would not die. I would still be alive when he returns. But listen, Jesus did not say that. He just said that possibility to Peter. What if I want him to remain alive until I return? That's up to me. That's between him and me. You just follow me. Jesus did not say this disciple would not die. I testify to these things. Now it's interesting that rumor did circulate toward the end of the first century. We know that John was the last of the original apostles to die. He outlived them all. He lived to the end of the first century to be a very old man. And he actually, tradition tells us, died of old age. He was the one apostle who was not martyred. Now, he was imprisoned on the island of Patmos, and we know at one time they tried to execute him, but he survived. But he lived to be an old man, and so the rumor spread that he's referring to here, that he would stay alive until Jesus returns. But John says that's not what Jesus said. Jesus simply said this possibility to Peter. He did not say I would not die. So John is trying to squelch that rumor that was around toward the end of the first century. It also tells us that the Gospel of John was probably written toward the end of the first century when that rumor was spreading, which would place it probably in the 90s. Most people assume that the Gospel of John was written in the years AD 90 to 95, somewhere in that frame. One of the last books of the New Testament to be written. And by this time, all the other apostles are gone. John is the only one still alive, and he is an old man. But he testifies to what Jesus had said. Jesus did not say, I would not die. He just said this possibility to Peter, to remind Peter, you follow me. Concentrate on what I'm calling you to do. He also says, the words of this gospel are my testimony, and they are true. Join us tomorrow as we look at the very last couple of verses of the Gospel of John. John's going to wrap up his gospel in these last couple of verses. We'll look at that next time in our 5-minute Bible study in the Gospel of John.